Laura Martinez had always lived a normal life. She was 32 years old, worked as a financial analyst in Madrid, and had been dating her boyfriend, Carlos, for almost 4 years. She lived in a small but cozy apartment, filled with sentimental decorations and photos of loved ones. Her routine was simple: wake up, go to work, spend time with Carlos, and plan for the future. But one morning, everything changed. She woke up in a different bed. At first, she thought she had stayed at Carlos's place and simply forgotten. But as she sat up and looked around, she felt a deep sense of unease. The furniture was different. The walls were painted in a color she would never choose. Her nightstand, usually cluttered with books and a photo of her and Carlos, was bare except for a sleek alarm clock she didn't recognize. Confused, she reached for her phone. The lock screen showed the same date and time, but the messages were unfamiliar. Conversations with people she didn't know. No recent calls from Carlos. No messages from her best friend, Sophia. It was as if her phone belonged to someone else, entirely, someone who had lived a different life. Still groggy, she forced herself to stay calm. Maybe she was just exhausted. Maybe she had been drinking the night before and blacked out. She needed to retrace her steps. She got dressed and left the apartment, only to find herself in a neighborhood she didn't recognize. It wasn't just that things looked different. She was certain she had never been there before. But somehow her keys had worked. Her name was on the mailbox, and the landlord greeted her by name when she passed by. The panic started to set in. She called Carlos. The phone rang twice before a man's voice answered, but it wasn't Carlos. "Hello?" She hesitated. Is Carlos there?" A pause. "Who is this?" "It's Laura. Can you put Carlos on the phone?" "I think you have the wrong number." The call disconnected. Laura felt her heart race. Something was wrong. She took a cab to Carlos's apartment, desperately hoping this was all just a misunderstanding. But when she knocked on the door, a woman she had never seen before answered. "Can I help you?" the woman asked. Laura's stomach dropped. I'm looking for Carlos." The woman furrowed her brows. "There's no one named Carlos here. I've lived in this apartment for 2 years." That didn't make sense. Laura had visited Carlos here just a few days ago. She had spent nights here, made coffee in his kitchen, even argued with him in the hallway. This was his apartment, wasn't it? Confused and on the verge of tears, she ran to the one place that would give her comfort, her parents' home. But when she arrived at the house, she had visited every Sunday since she was a child. Another family was living there. A man answered the door, looking at her strangely when she asked for her mother. "Mother? No one named Maria lives here," he said. "We bought this house 5 years ago." Laura stumbled back, feeling like she couldn't breathe. Her apartment was different. Her boyfriend didn't exist. Her job, her family, her life, all gone. She rushed to her office, hoping she would at least find familiarity there. But when she arrived, the receptionist didn't recognize her. Her name wasn't in the system. The company had no record of ever hiring a woman named Laura Martinez. It was as if she had never existed. For weeks, Laura wandered in a state of shock. She tried searching for Carlos, for her parents, for any trace of the life she had once lived, but it was pointless. Every official record matched the life she had woken up in, not the one she remembered. Eventually, Laura was forced to accept her fate. She found a new job, made new friends, and tried to adapt. But she never stopped feeling like a stranger in her own skin. Some people she confided in said she must have suffered from memory loss or a dissociative episode. Others believed she had unknowingly shifted into a parallel reality, where a version of herself had lived a different life. But Laura knew the truth. She knew her past, her memories, and the life she was supposed to have. And somewhere, in another version of reality, she knew that life was still going on, without her. Was this a case of a quantum glitch? A shift into a parallel universe? Or something even more terrifying? Laura Martinez still searches for answers. But one thing is certain. She woke up in a world that wasn't hers.